keyword, the locker room.
How you make this, Jay?
Welcome back to another episode of Locker Room Fuut Goals. We're going to take a quick look at what happened over the last weekend of October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. These are all the fixtures. We had Arsenal versus Tottenham. Let's take a look at that game. That game was an exciting game at the start. There was a lot of chances being created by both teams that kept going back and forth until Partey had gotten a shot outside the box, and it was one of those that Lloris just couldn't track as it came back on the short side and went into the top corner. A lot of excitement for Arsenal. Obviously, this game was to put them back on top of the league. So when they took the lead, it was an exciting moment for them. But about 10 minutes later, unfortunately, they gave up I'm going to say it was a correct call, a penalty that Harry Kane definitely finished. So they went into the half tied at 1-1. But the second half definitely did not have the start that they were looking for, as in the 49th minute, Gabriel Jesus. This man is a poacher. You give him a little bit of daylight and he's going to score. Lloris had just made a great save. Unfortunately, it bounced off one of the defenders, slid right underneath him. Jesus jumped over him and was able to bury the ball and get their second goal. After that, there was I'm going to say it's a questionable red card on Royale, who went for the ball. He clipped the player about ankle high. I think it was Martinez. He clipped Martinez about ankle high, and I don't think it was deserving of a red card. I would say it was more of a yellow card. But they gave him a red card, and he went out. Once that happened, it was more and more of Arsenal at that point. After that, the red card, Xhaka came back. Again, another one of those plays where, I don't know, Tottenham's team just looks defeated every single time that they are on the field. They're just not playing well. I know that they're high in the standings. They're in the top 4, if I'm not mistaken. But they look defeated. They don't look like they have the energy to compete. And it's almost disheartening. And Lloris is looking his age. He's looking very old in that right now. I don't know if it's maybe too many games for Lloris, but he's definitely not looking as sprightly as he normally does, where, you know, he can make a lot of these saves. He's just looking a little bit off. The defense is looking off. As you can see here, once that happened, Tottenham made a bunch of changes, trying to just make the game not get away from them, and maybe hopefully get one or two opportunities. They did push back, but it wasn't enough to get anything else. Let's look at what they did on the field. Obviously, once the red card from Royale came, there was a lot of substitutions. But I honestly feel that, Tottenham is struggling having a back three. I feel that they need to change this. Maybe go back to a back four and change their formation up, because this formation isn't working for them. Like I said, Dyer, Langlet and Romero, they just it looked very sloppy. They were all over the place. It doesn't bode well for them. This team is, with the players that they have, this team isn't constructed to work that way, and it's showing. It's starting to show when you get to teams that actually have some quality. As far as Arsenal continues their great run. The two Man City transfers, Zinchenko, Jesus, are proving that they belong. Jesus obviously scoring goals. Zinchenko playing great defense. As far as like the rest of the team, their midfield is holding up well. Defensively, they're collapsing on plays, now allowing teams to get too much. Saka, he is looking exciting, showing a lot of upside to his game, creating. Martinelli as well. He's another one. Those guys are really creating a lot on the coming off the wings, off the sides, giving Jesus the free reign in the middle, while Odegaard is kind of like the false nine, coming up, pushing up, and he's also creating a lot of lanes, a lot of passing lanes, distributing the ball well, helping control while they're in the attacking zone. So for Arsenal fans, I mean, this is the type of team you want. Right now, they're looking great. You know, obviously they have some big tests when they play a team like Man City. You know, I think that's probably one of the few teams that really could give this Arsenal team competition. But I mean, they're looking really good out there. This formation, their movement off the ball, they're looking really good. All right, let's go back here. We have AFC Bournemouth and Brentford. This game was one of those games. It was a pretty boring game. I mean, there was a lot of back and forth, but nothing that made the game super exciting. I mean, both teams tried everything they could. It wasn't going. Nothing really favored either team. Let's see what they had on the field. As far as like all the players, you can see everybody had good games. Everybody was working very well on the defensive side of the ball. It was just a very simple game. Nothing great. I think Brentford had one really threatening shot late in the second half, and Neto had to step up and make a save. If anything, Brentford had the edge on attack. Brentford put a little bit of pressure, but they weren't able to really crack the defense or Neto in net. So it ended up being a draw. These are two teams. Bournemouth is the middle of the table. Brentford is also, I believe, mid-table or a little bit above the bottom. Still very early in the season. All the teams are still just separated by anywhere from 3 to 6 points. So nothing wild. So, I mean, both teams get a point. Well-deserved. Nobody was cheated. But, yeah, let's move on to the next game. We have Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. Now, this game started off with a wonderful goal by Eduardo. Ayewu made a cross that only Eduardo was able to get as he creeped right past the defenders and poked it in. And you thought, oh man, Chelsea, you're going to struggle. But Chelsea was able to find their legs, get back, get their rhythm back, and really force. Aubameyang was able to score a nice turnaround goal after getting a headed pass over to him from Thiago after Thiago decided to stay up from a corner. The ball had gone back. Then they pushed it forward. He stayed up front. When they kicked it to him, he headed it over to Aubameyang, who made a beautiful turn, shot it low to the corner, and the goalkeeper was not able to reach for it. In the second half, Chelsea began to mount its attack. I mean, Crystal Palace had a few opportunities here and there, some good saves. some good saves by pardon me, by the goalkeeper for Chelsea. And as you can see here, it was one of those games that were just really played on the front foot for Chelsea, especially on the right side. Crystal Palace, they tried, but unfortunately they were not able to bury some of the chances and opportunities that they had. But again, Aubameyang scores on his debut for Chelsea. He looked good. He looked in form. Thiago, I mean, he got a yellow card in the mix. He saved the goal, in my opinion. That was a breakaway for Ayewu. Smart play, veteran player. Chelsea need to pick up their level of play a little bit more. They're expecting to make any type of run to stay in the top 5 or get into the top 4. Their shape, they can be explosive with the current shape, 4-4-2, and their goaltender's holding very strong back there. Veteran leadership like Thiago Silva definitely helps. Jorginho as well, and then they have the youngsters with Havertz and Mount on the wings. Sterling and Aubameyang now in the front, and I think that this style of play is really going to benefit them. Now, with that being said, can they compete? We're only going to see how much they can grow once they get to tougher teams. Once they start playing, I think they play Liverpool next week. That's going to be a challenge for them. Although Liverpool hasn't been playing well, it's one of those games that can change a season for both teams. But we'll get more into that when we break it down. As far as for Crystal Palace, they put up a very valiant effort. They made some good plays. They look pretty solid. They looked at any time like they can counter and possibly get a tying goal, but the defense for Chelsea just held up and they weren't able to bury one. But Crystal Palace fans, don't hold your heads down. It was a good showing for them. Wish they could have gotten the win, obviously, but fall short of even a draw. They just got to clean up the back end just a little bit more, just be a little bit tougher. I believe Ward was the victim of the turnaround that Aubameyang had. They just need a little more solitude back there. But I mean, they're not too far from competing to stay in the middle of the table. Let's move on to the next game, which was Newcastle versus Fulham. Newcastle versus Fulham started off with a red card. It was a sliding challenge by Chalobah, and it's a tough one to call. The ball had already passed. His studs were up. They called it a yellow card initially. Then they did the VAR check, and the referee decided to call it a red card. That obviously was going to change the aspects of the entire game. As for 3 minutes later, the whipping began. Newcastle did what they're supposed to do when you have a man advantage on the field, and definitely took advantage of the whole situation. They went up 1-0 within 3 minutes. By the half, they were up by 3-0. After that, it was pretty much just a Newcastle game. They ended up winning the game 4-0 for Fulham. They got a goal late, right before the 90th. They got in the 88th minute. They worked hard for it. So at least they show fight, and they didn't give up. But, it's very difficult when you're playing a man down. The question would be who they're going to have to replace them for the next game. Again, it's going to be a tough one. We want to see how this team is going to perform with their full lineup on the field. It's unfortunate that they got the red card early. Once again, Fulham is one of those teams that was promoted from the Championship, and they're looking to make their claim to stay in the Premier League for seasons to come. And it's one of those situations that they need to find their footing. and really start performing better to kind of stay there. Right now they're in the mid-table, but if they're not careful, they can easily fall down the ladder. As for Newcastle, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They take advantage of the man advantage. They pushed forward. They won 4-1. It was a comfortable win for them. Obviously, a lot of people played well. Almiron looked like the Almiron that everybody expects to see all the time. Longstaff controlled a lot of the field. He played very well. Wilson obviously buried one. You know, everybody did their job. There wasn't too much work for Pope. Leno had a few very, very good saves. Some exciting plays from Leno. Unfortunately, his rating did down to 6.7. That's, I mean, you get scored on 4 times. Your rating is definitely going to drop, but it wasn't his fault. I mean, when you're down a man, there's just too much going on, and it was unfortunate for Fulham. Newcastle did a great job taking advantage of that, but let's see how they do next week when, you know, they have a full team in front of them, and and hopefully they can, you know, they can still compete as well. I mean, I think that they have a lot of upside to them to stay in the league and stay in the top half of the table, but you know, they'll have to prove that against some of the stronger competition in the Premier League. Next game on the list, Liverpool versus Brighton. This one was one of those games that's just scintillating from the beginning. Opportunities for both sides. Trossard is one of those guys. He's got something special. He scored 2 goals within the first 20 minutes to give Brighton a 2-0 advantage. Liverpool settled down. They were able to get their legs and were able to find a goal before the half at the 33rd minute from Firmino. At the 54 mark in the second half, Firmino was able to find the net again. But after that, they kept pressing, and they were rewarded for their pressing by an own goal by Brighton. Obviously, Trossard felt some kind of way because he came back and completed the hat trick. So he had a brace in the first 20 minutes, and then he completed the hat trick on the 83rd minute to bring this game level. There was a lot of opportunities. Both teams seemed to be finding their way, a lot of pace to the game. And, I mean, it showed. A tie was deserved because both teams really gave it a lot. And let's take a look at their formations. So for Brighton, this 3 back, 5 in the middle, and 2 up front is really working for them. They have a lot of help coming from the midfield defensively, but they also have a good amount of people that can break out and help the top. Obviously, Trossard playing amazing in this game. He was able to score the hat trick, get all 3 goals. You know, when you play a 3 back like this, sometimes it gets really difficult. But Brighton has found a way to really feel comfortable playing with this and having the outlet, more of the players in the midfield to outlet to, and trying to control the game that way. It's been working for them as they sit high on the table, and I mean, they can play if they can keep playing at this level and keep pushing. They could sneak their way up to the 5th or maybe even the 4th spot, but they're gonna have to keep playing at a big level of competition. You know, there's a lot of teams out there that have, I would say, like special players. These guys, they have 1 or 2 guys that have special moments. I wouldn't consider anybody here super special, but you know, they have the opportunity as a team to come through and do special things. So that's what I like about Brighton. Again, they were able to pull out the draw after giving up an own goal, so that's good for them. For Liverpool is a team that has some special characters on there. and they have a lot of upside to them. The unfortunate part is that it's not coming together. Their defense is beginning to look shaky. I don't know what's going on there, but there's just things that are not Liverpool-like. Liverpool normally has a strong defense, and they're normally competing for the title, but this year, their defense is struggling mightily, and it's unfortunate for them, but they're like mid-table, I believe. They're not doing well at all. Firmino seems to have found something in this game. Salah, he's not the same guy. I think the loss of Mane has really impeded their offense, and they're finding it difficult to find someone to fill in that hole. So without Mane, their attacking options have really been limited, and it's made it easier for teams to stop them. So they're going to have to find another option outside of Firmino and Salah to help push the offensive side of the ball and really try to bury some goals. Because right now, you have three good holding midfielders in Thiago Silva, Fabinho, and Henderson. The only problem is there's nothing on the other side if Firmino or Salah get covered. Carvalho, I don't think he's the guy that's going to be able to help them break that. They either need to look somewhere else on the bench, or possibly even look for a transfer in the January window to bring in somebody else that can help their attack. I think that they're not going to get far, and as far as their defense, it's not working for them. Everybody just seems a little bit off, and it takes them a bit before they actually get into the game and actually figure it out, which is not the way that Liverpool normally has been playing for the past couple of seasons. So will this be a year that they step back and fall down the ladder somewhat? Is yet to be seen, but they need to figure it out as a whole. They're not producing the same way. They're not shutting down the same way. Again, the loss of Mane has really, really affected their entire gameplay. And it's unfortunate for Liverpool fans, because now it takes you back into the, oh man, this is Liverpool again. And I really, really hope that they can figure it out. They need another attacking option up front, or maybe they just need to change the formation and keep Salah and Firmino up as two strikers, and add maybe take Carvalho back a little bit more into the midfield, more than an attacking option, and maybe have Thiago push. Thiago has some magic in his feet when the ball is given to him, so he can figure it out. It's just one of those. Again, you have to really try to figure out the formation. I think the formation is going to be their downfall at this moment. You don't have the same offensive power that you did with Mane to hold this and maintain this formation. So maybe they change it to a 4-4-2 and maybe work that magic. But something needs to give here, because right now their season has been okay. And there's still a lot to go. So I'm hoping they can figure it out soon. Let's take a look at what the next match is. Everton versus Southampton. Now, this was a pretty exciting game. There was a lot of pressure from Southampton early. It just didn't pan out for them. No scoring was done in the first half. Just a bunch of missed opportunities by both teams early. And then finally, as they got in the second half, Southampton was able to score and give them the lead. You at that point, Southampton's looking at trying to maintain and not give away anything and hold the game, but Everton kept attacking, and they were able to get 2 goals in rapid succession 3 minutes after Southampton scored theirs. After that, it went the other way, where Everton was just the one that was holding off. But there was a lot of back and forths on this game. It was actually a pretty good game. But Everton got the best of Southampton in this game, and they were able to win the game 2-1. Let's take a look at the formation and see what's going on here. As far as for Everton, obviously they got the win. They're still working out their formation. Having Mupai, because I've seen Mupai here at the center of the three forwards attacking, but they've also had him on the left side. So it looks like this may have worked for the team, not so much for Mupai. I think it'd just be one of those things. As more games get played in this formation, they'll figure it out. But as far as like the rest of the team, the midfield played very well. They were able to hold the ball, transition well. The defense was able to really find their way. Obviously, they contributed with a goal, but they were able to find their way and hold off. Once the goals got scored on them, it was kind of like a slap in the face. It woke them up. They came back to score those 2 goals quickly. But after that, they pretty much were able to maintain and hold Southampton off. So for Everton, maybe this is a turning point for them. Maybe they can start getting their stuff together a little bit better and start moving up the ladder. For Southampton, it was a struggle. I mean, they had a lot of good opportunities here and there, but it wouldn't come through. So I wouldn't necessarily change anything in their formation. I think that they're playing a good formation for the team that they have. I just think that they just got to keep going at it. And they can possibly get the wins. But they need to be careful on those counterattacks and those set pieces. They're going to have to really find a way to hold themselves together and hold themselves accountable to maintain good competition, right? So obviously, Ward-Prowse is the captain, and he's definitely played very well throughout this part of the season so far. The American Adams, he's played pretty well as well. I think that some of the other players just need to step up their level of play and really try to help them out, because it really right now it's really revolving around the right side of the field for Southampton, and they need to start looking for a little bit more on the left side, some more support, so that way they can get it. They got some in this one. That's how they scored the first goal, but they need to be able to spread the ball out and come from all angles, not just consistently come from the right side. What is the next fixture here? We have West Ham United versus the Wolverhampton Wanderers. Sorry, I just call them the Wolves normally. Let's take a look at that game. So that game was another bad show for the Wolves. They just can't seem to find their footing at all this season. They have some very good players, but it's just not working for them anymore. We'll get more into their formation and what they have on the field. For West Ham, they were able to get in front of this, push. They looked like they were actually able to finally find some decent movement, some decent attacks. They were able to get 2 goals, one in the first half at the 29th minute, the other one by Bowden at the 54th minute of the second half. And after that, they were able to hold pretty decently. So let's take a look at their formations. So the Wolves are playing a 3-4-3. Again, I don't necessarily like this formation unless you have 3 studly defensemen back there. They ran with Neves trying to center back there. And that's not the way to go. You need that man to help control the middle of the field with Moutinho. And I mean, I know that playing with the wing backs, obviously Tomato's a right back, whatnot. But I think, I think the picture that we have here on Fuut Goals, I think it was more of Neves playing as a center defensive midfielder, Johnny and Kilman playing too. So I think it may have been more of a 4 in the back with Neves coming back to help them out. But I think that it's one of those situations where maybe this formation or trying to push the fullbacks to push the game on the wings is costing them too much, and it's hurting their game. I think they need to simplify this a little bit more. Maybe just keep a solid, the solid 4 in the back, 2 in the middle, and 2 wide, and then just 2 up front. But having this formation has really not worked for them this season. I know in previous seasons it did okay for them. They did all right. There was always like, oh, they're a competitive team and they can sneak one by you if you didn't pay attention to them. But this season, it's been very horrible for them, and yet again they fall to another loss. And it's unfortunate. They're in the relegation zone right now. And that always brings up questions of like, what are you going to do with the players you have? Because once you drop down to the championship, the bankroll is not the same. So people like Geddes, Neves, even Neto, Pondens, Semedo, are these guys, gonna stick with the club if it gets relegated? Can the club afford to keep these guys if they get relegated? I don't think so. I think they'll lose them. Neves has been linked to a lot of clubs on a move this past summer. He didn't. He's still with the Wolves. But if the team gets relegated, expect him to move out, or at least get loaned out with an option to buy to another club. He is a very good controlling midfielder. He's exciting when he's part of the offense pushing up. It's just they can't get there. They can't get it together, and it's a scary situation for the Wolves. They're really looking and really facing down relegation this season. I know, again, it's early in the season, but they need to figure something out quickly because this is not going to work for them. Right now, the way it stands, they're looking at relegation if the season ended today, and that's not where they want to be. For West Ham, it looks like they were able to find their rhythm, find their way back to a win. They played well. Solid performance by everyone. They were able to get the 2-goal lead and, just bring it home, win the game without any real casualty to their defense. They were able to get the shutout for Fabianski. But again, one of those players that shines is obviously Bowden, who had a goal. But he's been very, very good and exciting to watch. He can create. He can do a lot of things. Rice finally found his legs. He was extremely good helping control the midfield, providing options, getting back, recovering the ball. So for West Ham, are they turning the corner? Are they not? It's kind of one of those, we don't know, right? But they definitely did something well this game. They really found their legs, and you're hoping that that's what they're going to be able to bring every week going forward, because they've had their struggles. But with this win, they came out of the relegation zone and, got around mid-table. Again, it's early in the season, so everybody's crunched up, separated by 1, 2, 3 points, all the way up to like halfway through the table. So with West Ham, you hope that this was a turnaround and they actually start moving up. I know they're in 15th place right now, but all it takes is maybe a win streak, 2 wins, 3 wins, and maybe they get an opportunity to get high above and separate themselves from the relegation zone. So we'll see what happens with them next week. Next game. This is a dreaded one for me. I'm a Manchester United fan. I will never say I'm not. Alright? With the beatings, with everything, with the bad seasons that we've had since Sir Alex has gone, departure, it's been tough. We had a nice little streak going since we beat Arsenal And then we had 2 weeks where the team did not play competitively. Then we had another 2 weeks for the international break as countries begin to get their clubs ready for the World Cup that starts in November. What can I say about this? It was a thorough beating from Man City on Manchester United. Manchester United just didn't have it. They just didn't have it. To start the game, they just couldn't handle Haaland. Haaland is something different. He's one of those guys. Foden, another guy who let's say he's got electric in his feet. He can run. He can, be an option. So the tandem of him and Haaland be, in front while you have world-class players in the midfield serving it up to these guys. Manchester United was completely flat out outclassed in that game to start with. Rafael Varane did get hurt. I believe he had an ankle injury and was substituted in the first half around the 40th minute. But by that time, the game was pretty much over. The team, Manchester United, looked dismal in that first half. Completely after the first goal, it just felt like their heart was taken. They hadn't played in almost 4 weeks, and to come back to play again, I think the top team in the Premier League, world-class players. They're firing on all engines right now, and having the beast of Haaland, it was difficult. It was difficult to be a Manchester United fan during that game. As you can see, Foden found one on the 8th minute. Haaland found two at 34th, 37th minute. Foden found another one before the half. The life had been sucked out of Manchester United at that point. They made some substitutions to start the second half. Shaw came in. Anthony scored a screamer from outside the box. He curled it around the goalie. He couldn't stop it. But then Haaland, Foden completed their hat tricks, and really put the game to bed for them. After that, it was almost like Manchester City just said, we're going to just clear the bench. As far as for Manchester United, they inputted Casemiro, Martial, Fred, as they got, the 5th and 6th goal scored on them. But then, interestingly enough, Martial, who has shown some promise this season. There's been a lot of hype about the kid since he first got to Manchester United, but has never really lived up to the potential. People look at him and feel that he doesn't work hard enough, like he doesn't have the passion. He just doesn't look like he's enjoying it or playing. He had a loan spell last season in the Spanish league, in the Santander League, whatnot, and he didn't perform well there either. Most people thought he was going to be out of the door before the season started, but in the preseason, he played well, got injured, couldn't start off the season. Now, as he's coming back, we still see a lot of that chemistry going on, and it's good to see. He looks revitalized, and he was able to net 2. Yeah, it's not against the full-fledged Man City, but he did have a spark to him. He did have some fire to him, and you could see it. And that's a Martial that everybody's been waiting for so long. Is it too late? We don't know. We're hoping that he can show something, with that. Rashford just didn't look himself this game. I don't know if it was tired, maybe I don't know. He just wasn't himself. And what can I say about Man City? They look like they were just toying with Manchester United before that. Obvious, great passing all around. But yeah, I mean, it was a 6-3 win for Man City, well deserved. They played absolutely amazing. There's nothing to take away from that. I'll start off with Man City. Their formation obviously works. They have all the tools in the right places. For me, I still feel like Grealish still hasn't found his best form as that whiteout up front to Haaland. And if he does, Man City's going to be, I mean, they're already unstoppable, but they're going to take it to a whole nother level. But I mean, the midfield, you can't ask for more from this midfield. De Bruyne, Gudoan, Silva control everything. Defensively, I'll tell you myself, Akanji, I like him from when he was on Dortmund. I had wished that he was one of the guys that Manchester United had brought over, because I really was following him. I like his style, his defensive style. He has some speed to him that he can keep up with some of these faster players. Yeah, so Man City, I mean, they just kind of have the best of everything right now. You know, everywhere you look, all these guys, they can perform with the best of them, and together, I mean, they're an unstoppable force. I don't see unless something catastrophic happens to this team. I see Man City taking the championship again this season, without a doubt. There's nothing in their way. Now, to focus on Manchester United, as it looks like I would share a tear, right? So many good things before this game. But in a way, I feel like it was a great loss for Manchester United. They got to play against what you can consider the best team in all of football right now. They got to see where their faults are, where they cannot compete, where they can compete, if anywhere, and really understand what needs to be done to be competitive against a team like a Manchester City. And maybe in the same way that the Arsenal win for them kind of turned the corner for them to actually, really take it to that, to another level from where they were in their rebuilding phase, to like, okay, we've got some right pieces. Now we just need to fix maybe who's where against what team and against what do we need with some of the other bench players and so on and so forth. But in my opinion, I think this was a very good loss for Manchester United to take, to really be able to absorb and maybe stand up and really start looking and holding each other accountable. So during the halftime of this game, it was said by Man City officials that they heard Martinez and Fernandes screaming at the rest of the team, and not in a bad way, but in a way to hold each other accountable for what happened in that first half, and really kind of set the tone that they need to put it into another gear and start playing much better. And maybe that's the wake-up call they needed. Maybe getting smacked, because that's literally what happened. Maybe getting smacked by Man City will put them in the right frame of mind and where they need to be. But that will be yet to be seen. I mean, Anthony played well. Everybody else played, had their moments. Again, coming off the bench, Martial played with fire. Played like he wants to be on that on the starting list. He wants to play, and that's the fire that they've been looking for, that they've been needing from him for quite some time. and it's good that it's coming out. And I'm hoping that maybe he gets a chance and starts their next game. I know they played in the Europa League, whatnot, but I'm not talking about that game. I'm talking about their next game in the Premier League, which we'll cover shortly. And really take a turn and maybe figure out some of those deficiencies that they really found out when they played a top tier team. Enough about this game, as my heart hurts. Aston Villa and Leeds. All right, let's take a look at what happened here. Not much. Pretty much. It was one of those games. Nobody can get anything by anybody. It was whatever. I mean, it got a little difficult for Leeds. Aston Villa just couldn't finish, couldn't get it across the line. After Leeds got a red card at the beginning of the second half of the game. Kudos to Leeds for being able to hold off the pressure that Aston Villa was putting on them. But let's take a look at what they have here. I mean, for Aston Villa, Watkins, Bailey, Coutinho, those guys are the guys that need to push your offense. And I mean, they're pushing it, but unfortunately, there's something that isn't clicking yet. If those guys can get on the same page and figure out what the connection, what part of the connection they need to work on, that'll be a deadly trio up front. As far as their midfield, they're decent holding midfield that can kind of sneak up and add to some of the offense. So it's one of those that they have to be careful with. Defensively, I mean, Mings, the everlasting Mr. Young, that guy's been around forever and he's been doing it. He played winger, transformed into a right D, and he has just been killing it back there. He plays well. I mean, for them, it's one of those situations that they're still trying to find out their identity as a group, you know. And hopefully this game really kind of gives them a little bit of a clearer picture of maybe some of the things they need to tune up to really be able to push their game a little bit further and maybe get some more offense. Defensively, you know, there's some things they got to work on, but they weren't horrible at all. You know, they were able to sustain. But that was for Aston Villa. So now let's take a look at Leeds. With Leeds, it's one of those situations where, you know, the likes of Rodrigo, he's supposed to be the guy, right? They lost Rafinha, and they moved Harrison from the left side to the right side. Harrison is a left-footed player, so I'm assuming that they want him to, you know, cut across and be able to shoot, you know, shoot as he's cutting in, kind of thing. But there's I don't know, there's some fire missing under them. They're not at the bottom of the table, right? But they're not far from it. They're about a good 3 points out, depending on how the week goes, right? But this formation for them, it isn't bad. It isn't bad. I think they just need to move a few players around. They have some guys on the bench. I'll take a look real quick. They have some guys on the bench that they probably can insert in that center forward position right here to maybe add a little bit more firepower. You know, with the likes of like Sam Greenwood, who's done it for them in the past. I know Lorento is more of a holding midfielder, but he's pushed up in the past and helped them out. So I mean, they still have some decent opportunities to push and improve on their style. But Rodrigo really, he's the one who's gonna have to really carry the offense for this team. Everybody else here, they need to just find a way to get him the ball in the box. And if they do that, they're going to find success. defensively, they're pretty solid. It's not obviously when you can't they can compete against good teams. They won't be able to really stop good teams. Really good teams like the offense coming from a Man City, coming from an Arsenal, coming from a Brighton. Brighton is fine. This team can somewhat, still hold some of the cards. They just gotta find their offensive foot, right, to really try to be a little bit more competitive. But that's pretty much it for this game. Now let's take a look at the last game. We had Leicester City versus Nottingham Forest. Now, this game here. Okay. Let's start off with Leicester City. Leicester City, they look like they found their game in this one. They did what they're supposed to do, right? They're supposed to be the higher profile team. They're supposed to be the Nottingham Forest, who just came up from the championship. And they showed it. They showed quality. They showed everything that they're supposed to be showing throughout the whole season so far. And they failed to have done that in the past. But this game, they were able to do it. They got 3 in the first half. And then afterwards, it was just really controlling the game. They got one more later in the 73rd minute. But they controlled the whole game. Nottingham Forest, just in shambles. I think maybe the sleep was too big to this point for Nottingham Forest. They have not found their legs. They have not found their style. Nothing has been working for them. It's very sad to see. Again, let me go over the formation of Leicester City. They're playing a 5-1-4-1, which always bodes well for them. Jamie Vardy's still a very pacey player, even at his age. He's an older player, but he still holds his leg speed. You have Madison, who's a good creator, talesman, who's another up and coming superstar in the midfield. And they look like they're putting it together. They put it together for this game, and you hope that maybe they turn that corner and actually get it together as a whole as they continue on through the season, because they do have quality players. I mean, just those 3 alone, you're not even talking about the likes of Barnes and Castellana on defense. I do think that maybe it's hard to attract higher quality talent when you're sitting so low in the table. But maybe they go after a key defender during the January transfer window, and try to bolster their defense for the long run, because what they have right now is mediocre at best. Johnny Evans has been around for a while, but he's always been one of those guys that's been okay, never really good. Never, he's had horrible moments, and I just feel like they need to upgrade that defense. And the big question is, can they attract anybody to help bring the quality of this team up? From where they're sitting, I don't think so. But if they can find their game, I think they can get out of the relegation zone. Right now, they sit second to last on the table, and that's not where Leicester City was looking to be, especially after losing their goalkeeper. Oh my God, I forgot his name. I apologize. But after losing their goalkeeper, it was one of those where it was really tough for them. Right? I'm not saying Ward is not a good replacement, but I feel that that their goalkeeper before, he helped control the defense and really helped them be a lot sturdier. And this goaltender doesn't seem to have that same presence. So, with that being said, let's move on to Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest. All right, let's take a look at some of the players here. Lingard, completely playing out of position. Don't like it. I've said it multiple times already. This is not where he's going to contribute his best football at all. You need to move him here, right behind the striker, and leave him there. That's where he's going to create for you. That's where he's going to be able to do things for you. Coyote had a bad game. It just wasn't going well for them. Some of the guys that were on the bench, Aurier, he needs to start. I think him and Bowley starting gives you a hope on the defensive end. But this defense, this team right now is extremely, extremely difficult to watch. Henderson right now is in a situation where people are saying, oh, now we know why he never won the starting role at Manchester United. Now, I don't like that look on him because he's actually a very good keeper, but when the team in front of you isn't playing well, you can't do anything on that. And right now, this team in front of him is not playing well. They need to make some changes here. Aurier needs to start. Bowley needs to come in and start. I think Coyote needs to move. Coyote needs to move more as a central defensive midfielder, and maybe have a Lingard. Hey, listen, have Lingard and White right up here, and then bring somebody else on the wing along with Johnson. But this team right now, for sure, they look like they're completely outclassed. Like they're not ready for the Premier League. I can pretty much say that they're gonna end up being relegated by the end of the season. There's nothing that's telling me otherwise from what they've done to this point, from what they've tried to this point. It just does not make any sense. They keep losing, and yeah, they have some. They acquired some players, some guys that have potential. But when you don't play them in their correct positions, or you don't play them at all, it makes it difficult for them to help you get better. And I think that right now that this is one of those things that they're just not ready. They're just not ready for the Premier League. And if they don't shape up, it's going to be one season in the Premier League and out, and that's it. So hopefully they can find it. Hopefully they can get their act together. Again, if I was in charge of Nottingham Forest, Lingard would be in the middle here, Coyote behind. Maybe another central attacking midfielder with him. Maybe you keep White and Lingard here, or bring Brian up, or have two central defensive midfielders with Lingard up here in the middle by himself, and just bring in somebody else who can play on the wing, because Lingard cannot play on the wing. I've watched him for most of his career, actually probably all of his career, and when he was younger and there was better attacking options, yeah, with his youth and his speed at that time, he can do something. But unfortunately, with his current position, obviously he's an older player at this point. That's not where he's best suited. I think he showed it when he played with West Ham. He's best suited for this position here, right behind the attacking, your center, right behind, your center fielder or your striker. That's where he's going to be at his best. Having him coming off the wings, they've done it repeatedly this season. That's not going to work. Yeah. So I mean, as far as Nottingham Forest, I mean, good luck. But you guys really need to do something completely different. You guys are not being competitive at all. It doesn't make sense. If it was possible, I think you should be sent down now to the championship, and have them send somebody else up because you guys cannot compete. All right. So let's look at the table now. Arsenal with that win of 3-1, they came up big. They got the points and they're up on the table in first place by 1 goal. I mean 1 point. Sorry, by 1 point. So with that being said, they play Liverpool next. It's one of those scenarios. Liverpool has not been the greatest team. They're still trying to figure things out. I think Arsenal beats them without a problem. Unless Liverpool has turned it around or something, which it doesn't seem like they have. It'll be another win for Arsenal. But yeah, I mean, the table's pretty clear. Arsenal on top. Man City, very hot on the tail. Man City, at this point, I don't see how Man City can lose. Again, unless something crazy happens. Tottenham, I mean, even if you're in third place, their team, they just looked defeated against Arsenal. When they got scored on, their body language is just screaming defeated. And they have some quality players. They have Son, they have Harry Kane. You know what I mean? So it's one of those situations that they have the quality, but it was a really bad look against Arsenal. They just didn't have it, and you hope that that's not a sign of things to come. They've had a pretty good season so far, just with the one loss. But again, this team has been known to just implode throughout the season. And normally it's something like this that happens. Next week they're playing, the fourth place team. That'll be interesting. So, Brighton, very good team. Surprising a lot of people, turning some heads. They found their formation. They found how they want to play. They've been playing very well, being extremely competitive, more so than people thought or gave them credit for. And hey, kudos. Chelsea have been like in and out, play good, not play good. They really got to find their form if they want to solidify any type of the top 4 positions or stay in the 5th position. Manchester United, they got to figure it out. They had obviously a really bad loss. Maybe again it was a good loss for them. Maybe they figure out some things and they start really facing some facts. But yeah, let's take a look. Newcastle, Fulham tied for 7th place. Again, both of those teams taking full advantage of what they have in front of them, doing the best with very little. Obviously, the big thing for Newcastle is they keep games very close, defensively sound for a lot of it. So even though they don't have a lot of wins, they still get points almost every game out. They only have 1 loss. Fulham, they're in and out every week. It's one of those teams that it kind of baffles you because they're good enough. I think they're gonna stay in the Premier League this season. They're good enough, so they deserve to be here. They just got to make sure that they keep competing every week. They can't have inconsistency like they have. Liverpool, again, they're a shade of who they were before. They need to figure out what they're doing as a team. The loss of Mane cannot be that. It cannot take your whole team. Mane was not the whole team. He was a big part of your offensive structure, but they need to figure it out, and they need to be more competitive because they they should not be in ninth place. Worst case scenario, they should be in sixth, fifth, right around here. That's where they're supposed to be. They're a big club. There's no reason for them to be this low. Brentford, trying to show that they belong in the Premier League. It hasn't gone great, but it hasn't gone horrifically bad either. Yeah, they had that scenario, you know, with their coach and everything, and they lost. But hey, here they are, sitting in 10th place with 10 points, tied with the likes of Liverpool and Everton. Right? For a team that just came up from the championship, this is what you want to do. You want to compete, and that's what they're putting their best foot forward. I mean, it isn't great, but again, it isn't horrible. They're still competing. They're still getting points out of most of their games, if not just about almost all their games. Right? So they only have 2 losses. So the other 6 games they've gotten points from. 2 wins, and the rest of them have been draws. So they're trying to compete to stay here, right? Everton, another team that should be fighting to be in the top 4, top 5 at least, and they're sitting down in 11th place. Again, not too much separates the 4th place team from the 11th place team. It's literally 4 points, but still, Everton needs to really like just start putting it together offensively and get some of these finishes. You know, they're just not producing goals the way that you would expect them to with the offensive power that they do have. So it's one of those scenarios that you just look at it and you're just like, I don't know what they're gonna do to change that, but they have the quality. So let's see if they can figure it out. Leeds, I'm not gonna say it's kind of where I expected them to be, but it's kind of where I expected them to be. Mid-table, still looking for some identity. Bournemouth, another one of those teams. I apologize. I think I said Brentford came up. They didn't come up. They were still here from last season. But they're definitely performing much better, because I know last season they were definitely closer to the bottom of the table. Bournemouth did get promoted. And they just need to figure out some of their inconsistencies all around in order to be more effective. Aston Villa, West Ham, Southampton. I mean, they've been sitting around this same place, maybe a little bit higher for the past 3 to 4 seasons. And they just need to find a way to stay more competitive. I mean, they're literally on the brim of being in the relegation zone. So they need to really step it up. Along with Crystal Palace, another team that should not be this far down. They should be fighting and being more competitive. Season shockers, Leicester City, Wolves. Oh my God, guys. Wolves are complete in disarray. They just don't look like they know how to play together anymore. It's just not working. Leicester City had a great showing. They got their first win. It put them up above Nottingham, which isn't a great feat. But they need to really figure out the defensive structure, because they've let in a lot of goals. They've got their good fair share of goals as well, but man, they really need to put it all together, because it's not looking pretty for them at all this season. It's a shame to see a team that worked so hard to get here and stay up here for so long now on the verge of not on the verge, but now sitting at the bottom of the table where they can fall down and get relegated, right? Nottingham Forest, again, they weren't ready for the Premier League, period. There's nothing else you can say about that. Let's take a look at next week's fixtures. Well, this weekend. So we have Bournemouth versus Leicester. Expect that to be a dogfight. I have Leicester City pulling out the wins. if they get it together, they can definitely beat Bournemouth, who's still trying to figure some things out. Just had a better turn of luck. Chelsea versus the Wolves. Hate to say it, Chelsea's just gonna. I mean, the way that the Wolves have looked all season, Chelsea's just gonna walk all over them. It's just not gonna be fair. The next game, Man City versus Southampton. I wanna give Southampton the credit to be feisty and put up a fight, but Man City is just so dominant all around. It shouldn't even be a competition. It should almost be a walkthrough. It's unfortunate to say it that way, but the quality of Man City has is just overwhelmingly undeniable. Then you have Newcastle at Brentford. That should be a very good game. Could even end up a draw. But one of these teams needs to find something in it. They need to figure that out. Then on Sunday we have Crystal Palace versus Leeds. Crystal Palace has had a pretty good foot on the situation. I think that Crystal Palace could sneak one out here if Leeds doesn't play their cards right and play a solid defense, because Crystal Palace does have some creative offense when it's moving. But I mean, they have struggled this season, but Leeds isn't too far ahead of them. But yeah, it should be an interesting game. I expect some fireworks here. Rodrigo needs to put Leeds on his back and carry them across the finish line if they hope to win this game. But I think Crystal Palace will beat Leeds. Fulham and West Ham, that's going to be a little bit interesting. I think Fulham has a more complete team at the moment than West Ham does. But West Ham did sort of find their groove in this past weekend. So can it translate over to the next week? We're going to find out. But I think that Fulham takes this one. I think Fulham has what it takes to beat West Ham United. Next game, Arsenal-Liverpool. Arsenal's been clicking on all cylinders so far this season, with the exception of the Manchester United game that they lost. Liverpool has been struggling all season, in and out. It's just, I think that this is going to be one of those moments where Liverpool is really going to have to make a judgment call if they lose this game. And in my opinion, they are going to lose this game, where they decide what they want to do as a team to make some changes. And I expect Arsenal to be able to just overwhelm them and take over the game and literally just dominate that game. Liverpool's very good off and on the ball. And they've just been, again, firing on all cylinders, so should be an easy one. Next game, Everton and Manchester United. After that slapping that they got from Manchester City, Manchester United looks to bounce back, and hopefully they'll learn a thing or two from that beating, and maybe they can get it back, and maybe they can figure it out. Maybe they can put it all together. Right, but they're gonna have to show something. Otherwise, it's gonna be another tough season if they can't figure this out with a team like Everton. For Everton, they gotta win. They got some things click. They gotta win. They gotta get some things clicking. They have the offensive power. To be a threat to a lot of the higher echelon teams. So if they can put it together, I think with the pace that they have and the quality that they have on the ball on the attacking side, they can cause Manchester United problems, especially if Varane has not recovered. If he has not recovered, Manchester United's middle does lack the speed to hold some of these faster players, and that's kind of where Everton might be able to overpower them. What that'll be their main focus, is to overpower the defensive core of Manchester United. Again, if Varane is not there. If Varane is playing, they're going to have to look for movement and trickery off the ball to get past that defense and score some goals, which they'd have the players to do it. So it's really going to come down to what Everton shows up at the game. Last but not least, we have Nottingham Forest versus Aston Villa. Aston Villa has proven to be a better team than what Nottingham Forest has. Unless Nottingham Forest has figured something out over this past week, expect more of the same, where they're just going to lose again. And Aston Villa is going to get an easy 3 points. I hope that's not the truth. I hope we get some competitive game here. I hope that Nottingham Forest watches the show so they can have some ideas on where to play some of these guys and who to play. Because what they're putting on the field doesn't make sense. But that is all. We have recapped last week's action. We have looked at this upcoming week's action. And yeah, if you have any, if you like the review, please like and subscribe, so you can definitely see some more of the things that we have coming up. But also leave some comments. Let me know what you think. Whether some of my predictions are wrong. Whether some of the players that I'm calling out have an injury or anything. Let me know. Tell me I suck. It doesn't matter to me. But definitely, I would love to hear your comments. Love to hear your opinion. If you would like me to cover something, a team in particular, a player in particular, give you more insight, please let me know in the comment section. I'll be going over that and letting you know, what I think or whatnot. But I definitely appreciate your time. From the locker room, Fuut Goals. Have a good one. Peace out.
Keyword, the locker room.
How you make this, Jay?